Hello, welcome to our channel. Today we're going to learn some more idioms about vegetables. Now you might be thinking, why should I learn idioms about vegetables? Well, vegetables are very common, and when we use them in our speech, it helps to make our speech more interesting. It also helps us to be more fluent, because when you can use one of these set phrases, everybody knows what you mean. Okay, so for the first idiom, we have cucumbers. Now, cucumbers are very nice, and when you eat them, they're very cool and refreshing. So that's why we often use cucumber to talk about how we feel. So if we're feeling very calm and confident, we can say, I feel as cool as a cucumber. Or we can describe somebody else. If they're very calm and confident, we can say they're very calm and confident. As cool as a cucumber. Next we have potatoes. Now potatoes are very interesting because they're very common, and we can use potatoes to describe different situations. So for example, maybe you've heard of couch potato. Now what is a couch potato? If you see someone being very lazy, sitting on a couch or a sofa, doing nothing, maybe just watching television. Anyway, they're just being quite lazy and not doing very much. A bit like a lazy vegetable, not doing anything. So we can call them a couch potato because they're quite lazy and not doing anything except sitting on a couch. For potatoes, we can also use it to describe people in a different way. We can use a small potato. Now, a small potato, maybe you've heard this before. A small potato is someone quite junior who works in a company. So someone who's not very senior, but quite junior, we can call them a small potato. So if you have an ordinary job in a company, not senior, you can just say, I'm just a small potato. For the next idiom, we're going to talk about peas. Now, peas are quite interesting because they're quite small. So there are different idioms about the size, not about the color, but about the size. So for peas, we can say they're like two peas in a pod. And it's used to describe something which looks the same. So for example, children who look the same, we can say, oh, they're like two peas in a pod. Maybe they're twins. Because when you open a pea pod and you look inside all the peas, they all look the same. Okay, so if you see children, if you see twins and they look very similar, you can say they're like two peas in a pod. They're very similar. We can also use peas to talk about size, but for our brain. So we can say that someone who is not very clever or very silly, we can say they are pea-brained. They have a brain the size of a pea, very small. We can also use peas to talk about the weather. So if it's very foggy and if it's very difficult to see, then we can say, oh, it's like pea soup. Or this is a pea souper. So the pea soup is normally something which is very thick. And so when we're looking out to sea, or we're looking out and the weather around us is very misty, very foggy, and we can't see very much, then we could say, this is a pea soup, or we're in a pea soup. Another idiom for vegetables is to talk about being in a pickle. So if I'm in a pickle, this means that I'm in a not very nice situation. Maybe it's a very bad situation, but I want to say it in an informal way. So I say, oh, I'm in a pickle, or I'm in a bit of a pickle, and it means I'm in a not nice situation, or maybe there's some difficulty, or maybe it's a very big difficulty. But being in a pickle is not nice. We can also use carrots in idiom as well. So carrots Carrots are quite nice and can be quite sweet, and carrots can be used to describe a kind of a benefit or reward. So the idiom is dangle a carrot. So if you dangle a carrot, you hold a carrot as a kind of reward. So for example, donkeys like carrots, and if you want a donkey to move forward, because they can be quite stubborn, if you want them to move forward, you hold a carrot in front of them, and they will keep moving to try to get the carrots. That's their reward, that's their benefit or incentive. So if you want to try to encourage someone with a benefit or reward or incentive, we can use the idiom dangle a carrot, or that's the carrot. Hold out an olive branch. So this is a very nice idiom. If you hold out an olive branch, it means that you want to make peace. So olives and olive branches, these are symbols of trying to make peace. Maybe you've had a disagreement or an argument, and if you want the argument or disagreement to stop, then you can do or say something to hold out an olive branch. Maybe you will say sorry, maybe you'll do something very nice for that person to make that argument stop. And so this is called hold out an olive branch, or I'm trying to hold out an olive branch to end the argument. For the next idiom, we can say, I heard it on the grapevine. Now if you say, I heard it on the grapevine, that means you heard something, you heard a rumor. Now rumor is something that is maybe not true, or maybe partly true. And if you hear something on a grapevine, if you think of how grapes grow, they grow on very long vines, very long and twisted vines. The origin of this idiom is that it came from a long time ago with the invention of telegraph wires. And telegraph wires were used for communication, but the wires were very long and twisted, just like a grapevine for grapes. And so this idea of communication, this is how we get this idea of the idiom. I heard it on the grapevine. I heard something, and it also has a meaning that maybe it's not true. Okay, so be careful about listening to things on a grapevine. It's used to describe things or stories which may be not true, maybe unofficial, not formal. Okay, so normally if you make an announcement in a company, then it's true and you want everybody to know, and it has been agreed what you will say. But if you hear something on a grapevine, maybe it's not true. So some examples might be if you hear someone is leaving, but later you find it's not true. Well, you can say, I heard it on the grapevine that you're leaving. But then later you find it's not true. Or maybe it is true, but they didn't want you to know so early.